You swing the driver somewhere between 70 and 80 miles an hour. You watch your buddies bomb it past you. You've been told the fix is more lessons, more gym time, a longer backswing. It isn't. The thing quietly stealing your distance is sitting in your bag right now, and it costs less than $4 to fix. Here's what I found after 3 months of digging. The golf ball most players like you are hitting was built for a swing you do not have. Match the ball to your speed and you can pick up 8, 10, even 15 yards without changing a single thing about your swing. This used to be common knowledge among club builders. Then it got buried under shiny marketing and a word most golfers still don't understand. I'm going to show you the 5 balls that actually fit your speed, and at the end I'm going to hand you a trick I found buried in a patent from 1898 and a cold weather study that almost nobody talks about. If you play public courses with the clubs you already own, this is for you. Stay with me, because the last one changed how I load my bag every single round. Let me back up and tell you how I fell into this. It started in my father's garage. After he passed, I was clearing out his old canvas golf bag, the one with the leather bottom cracked from 40 summers. Inside the side pocket, I found a small paper sleeve of golf balls I'd never seen, and written on the sleeve in his handwriting was a single number. 90. Just 90. I had no idea what it meant. I thought it was a price, or maybe a locker number. I set it on the workbench and forgot about it for a week. But that number nagged at me, so I started asking around, and what I learned sent me down a trail I did not expect. That number was a compression rating. And once I understood what it meant, I couldn't believe how many golfers, including me, had been throwing away yards for years without knowing it. Here's the first clue, and it's the one that cracked everything else open. A golf ball is not a solid rock. It's a spring. When your club face hits it, the ball squashes flat against the face for a fraction of a second, then explodes back into shape and launches forward. That squash, that momentary flattening, is where your distance is born. If the ball doesn't compress enough, it just sits there like hitting a stone, and your energy dies on contact. Now here's the part nobody explained to me for years. How much a ball compresses depends on 2 things working together: how hard the material is, and how fast you're swinging. A tour professional swinging 115 miles an hour can flatten a firm, high-compression ball completely. Their speed does the work. But you and I, swinging 70 to 80, we don't bring that kind of force. If we hit that same firm tour ball, we barely dent it. We leave most of our distance on the tee, and we never even feel it happen. The number on my father's sleeve, 90, was the compression of a ball built for a faster era of players. My dad, God bless him, was probably swinging 80 by his 60s and hitting a ball that fought him the whole way. He lost yards for decades and never knew the reason was printed right there on the box. So I had my first clue. Compression is a spring, and the spring has to match your speed. But that just opened a bigger question. If this is so simple, why did nobody at the pro shop ever tell me? Why is this word compression practically hidden on modern packaging when it used to be printed big and bold? That's where the trail got interesting. Let me take you back to where this all began, because the history explains why the knowledge disappeared. For centuries, golf balls were terrible. First, they were made of wood. Then, in the 1600s, players used a thing called a feathery, a leather pouch stuffed with boiled goose feathers, and it cost more than a golf club itself. Then came the gutta-percha ball in the 1840s, made from dried tree sap, cheap enough that regular people could finally play. But none of these had any real spring to them. You just beat them down the fairway. Everything changed in 1898. A man named Coburn Haskell, working with a rubber engineer named Bertram Work at the B.F. Goodrich Company in Akron, Ohio, wound a long rubber thread under tension around a small core and wrapped a cover around it. He patented it, and by 1901 that wound rubber ball was adding roughly 20 yards to the average drive. 20 yards, overnight, from nothing but a smarter spring. Amateur golfers of that era went wild for it. The whole idea, the whole revolution, was that a ball is a stored spring, and getting more of that spring to release is free distance. Think about that. More than 120 years ago, the entire selling point of the modern golf ball was compression, the spring. Regular players understood it because it was the reason the game got easier and longer. That knowledge was common. It was almost folk wisdom passed around every clubhouse in America. So how did we lose it? Because the ball got too good and the marketing took over. Somewhere in the last few decades, ball companies figured out they could sell prestige instead of physics. They put their tour players, the fastest swingers on earth, front and center. They plastered their firmest, most expensive balls with words like tour and pro and premium. And the average golfer, swinging 75 miles an hour, was trained to believe that the same ball the champion plays would make him better too. But it does the opposite. That's the cruel part. That firm tour ball needs a 100+ mile-an-hour swing to wake up. In your hands, at your speed, it stays asleep. You paid the most money for the ball that cost you the most distance. And the one word that would have warned you, compression, got shrunk down and pushed off the front of the box so you'd focus on the logo instead. I needed to find the balls with the lowest compression numbers, the softest springs, the ones that a 70 to 80 mile an hour swing could actually flatten and launch. So I started testing, reading independent lab data and pulling every number I could find. Here's what came back. The first ball that kept rising to the top was the Callaway Super Soft, and the number that matters is its compression, which sits right around 38. To put that in plain terms, that is one of the softest, easiest to compress balls sold at a normal price. For a swing in your range, that low number means the ball flattens fully, even on a smooth, unhurried swing, and springs back with everything you gave it. Players who switch to it from a firm tour ball routinely report the ball simply carries farther through the air with the same swing. There's a second reason it fits you. A softer, lower compression ball tends to spin less off the driver for a moderate swing, and less driver spin means the ball climbs into a better flight and rolls out farther instead of ballooning up and dropping dead. It also feels soft off the putter, which most players over 50 tell me they prefer. It runs about $2 to $3 a ball, sometimes less by the dozen. That is a lot of found distance for pocket change. So the Super Soft solved part of the puzzle: low compression, more carry, gentle on the wallet. But as I kept testing, I ran into a new problem, and it's one you may be thinking about already. If soft equals distance, does soft also mean the ball flies all over the place and won't stop on the green? Because a lot of us don't just want longer, we want straighter, and we want the ball to hold when it lands. That question sent me to the next ball. The answer showed up in the Srixon Softfeel, and its compression sits around 60. Now that's a touch firmer than the Super Soft, and that's on purpose. 60 is still soft enough that a 70 to 80 mile an hour swing compresses it well, but it's firm enough to give you more control and a more penetrating flight in the wind. What I found in the independent numbers surprised me. This ball gives slower swingers a beautiful balance, long off the tee but still enough greenside grab to stop on a chip. The reason comes down to the cover. Srixon builds this ball with a soft, thin cover over a large, low-compression core, and they design the surface with extra dimples, over 300 of them, arranged to keep the ball flying straight and long even when your contact isn't perfect. That's the straighter drives part of the promise. A well-designed cover and dimple pattern reduces the sideways spin that turns your drive into a slice. For around $2 a ball, you get distance and forgiveness in the same package. That's the ball I'd hand a friend who fights a slice. So now I had two balls, one built for maximum soft distance and one for the balance of distance and control. The puzzle was coming together, but I kept running into a name over and over in every serious discussion. A company that didn't just sell balls but actually studied golfers by the hundreds of thousands. And what they found is the single most important number in this entire investigation. I'll get to that in a moment because it flips everything you think you know about buying golf balls. First, the third ball, because it comes from the biggest name in the game and it proves even they had to admit the truth. The third ball is the Titleist TrueFeel. Now, Titleist is the company most famous for the Pro V1, The premium tour ball you see the professionals play, the firm high compression ball that costs around $4 to $5 each. For years, the message was simple. Real golfers play the Pro V. But Titleist quietly builds the True Feel, and it is their softest, lowest compression ball, and it is built for exactly the player we're talking about. It's their acknowledgement, in product form, that not everyone should be playing their tour ball. The True Feel runs about $2 a ball, roughly half the price of their premium model. It has a large core that compresses easily at moderate speed and a cover tuned for soft feel and low long game spin, which again means straighter, longer tee shots for your swing. When I compared it head-to-head in the data against the premium ball for a slower swing, the cheaper, softer True Feel actually gave the moderate swinger more total distance off the tee. Read that again. The $2 ball beat the $5 ball for your speed. The only place the expensive ball wins is for a player fast enough to compress it and skilled enough to use the extra greenside spin. That is not most of us. Here's the lesson. Clicking into place, you were never buying a worse ball by going cheaper. For your swing, you were buying a better one. The price tag was measuring prestige, not performance. But that raised the question that had been building this whole time. If the expensive ball is wrong for most players, exactly how many players are playing the wrong ball? Somebody had to have measured that. And somebody did. That was my second clue. And it made me angry. But it also told me exactly what to look for. If this kind of buried knowledge is something you want more of, I put the full framework together in a short digital book called First Wins. It's part of a series that includes Sharp Habits and the full system. These aren't long reads. They're the condensed version of everything I dug up, laid out, so you can use it the same week you read it. You can find the link in the description below. Now, with that in mind, let's get back to the 5 balls that actually fit your speed. Now, I want to talk directly to you if you've been sitting there thinking this doesn't apply to you. Maybe you're thinking your swing is too slow to matter, or you only play a few times a year, or you can't afford to go buy a fresh dozen balls just to experiment, or you don't have a launch monitor or a fancy fitting bay near you. I thought every one of those things too. So here is what you can do this week, right now, with what you already have. You do not need a launch monitor. You do not need to know your exact swing speed to the decimal. Here's the simple test I use. Take your normal 7-iron and make your usual comfortable swing on a range. If a full, smooth 7-iron carries the ball somewhere around 130 to 150 yards in the air, you are almost certainly in that 70 to 80 mile an hour driver range, and every ball I'm naming today is built for you. That's it. No electronics, no cost, and you don't need a fresh dozen either. Here's the thrifty move. Almost every one of these low compression balls is sold as last year's model or as a refurbished or recycled ball for a fraction of the price, sometimes under $1 each. The compression doesn't change from year to year. A 3-year-old Super Soft compresses exactly like this year's Super Soft. Buy a handful of used ones of a single low compression model, play them for 2 rounds, and pay attention. You'll feel the difference before you even see it on the scorecard. You already own everything you need to test this. That was the moment I stopped believing you had to spend money to get your distance back. Now, that company I kept promising to tell you about, this is the clue that reframed the entire mystery for me. The company is Bridgestone, and they didn't just make claims. They put real golfers through real ball fittings, more than 300,000 of them, one of the largest collections of everyday golfer data ever gathered. And when they added up the results, the number that came back was staggering. The overwhelming majority of amateur golfers were playing the wrong ball for their swing. By their fitting data, only a small fraction of players were in a ball that actually matched their speed. Most were in a ball too firm for them, leaving distance on every single tee shot, round after round, year after year. Let that sink in. This isn't one grumpy guy in a garage saying it. This is hundreds of thousands of measured swings. The wrong ball is not a rare mistake. It is the normal condition of the average golfer, and the fix costs less than the sleeve you're already buying. Which brings me to the 4th ball, the one Bridgestone builds for exactly this player. It's the Bridgestone E12 Contact, and its softer sibling, the E6 line. These are engineered around a low compression core for moderate swing speeds, and Bridgestone added a special dimple technology, little raised dimples they call contact force dimples, designed to increase the amount of club face contact at impact and reduce spin loss. In plain English, more of your energy transfers into the ball, and less of it gets wasted. For a swing under 80, that means more ball speed and a straighter flight, which is the whole distance plus accuracy promise in one ball. It sits around $2 to $3 each, and it comes from the company that literally proved most of us are playing the wrong ball. So 4 balls in, the picture was almost complete. Match the compression to your speed, and free yards appear. But I still had one nagging thread. Every ball I'd found so far cost around $2. I kept wondering, is there a ball that goes even softer, even lower in compression, for the player whose swing is at the slow end, right around 70? Because for the slowest swings, even a 38 compression ball might not fully release. That question led me to the 5th ball, and it turned out to be one of the softest balls ever sold. The 5th ball is the Wilson Duo Soft, and its compression is astonishingly low, right around 35, which for years was marketed as the softest golf ball in the world. For a player at the slow end of our range, this matters enormously. That ultra-low compression means even a gentle, aging, 70-mile-an-hour swing can flatten this ball completely and get the full spring back. It's the ball I'd reach for if your speed has dropped over the years and nothing feels like it's launching anymore. Wilson is one of the oldest names in the game, and they leaned into the science of soft. The Duo Soft launches high and easy, reduces driver spin to fight the slice, and feels like butter off the face. And here's the kicker. It's often the cheapest of the bunch, sometimes right around $1.50 to $2 a ball. The softest spring, at the lowest price, for the slowest swings. That is the opposite of everything the prestige marketing trained us to believe. So there they are, the 5 balls that actually fit a 70 to 80 mile an hour swing. The Callaway Super Soft for maximum soft distance, the Srixon Soft Feel for the balance of distance and control, the Titleist True Feel to prove even the premium company builds for you, the Bridgestone E12 for engineered energy transfer, and the Wilson Duo Soft for the slowest swings that need the softest spring. Every one of them is under $3 a ball, and every one of them will very likely outdrive the expensive tour ball you might be playing right now. But I promised you something more. I promised a secret buried in that 1898 patent, and in a cold weather study almost nobody talks about, because picking the right ball is only half of it. The other half is what the pros know and never say out loud, and it costs you nothing at all. This is the part that changed how I load my bag every round. Go back to Coburn Haskell's original wound ball from 1898. The entire genius of it was stored energy in tensioned rubber, a spring waiting to release. And here is the thing about every spring. From that first rubber ball to the modern low-compression core in your bag, its springiness depends on its temperature. A cold spring is a stiff spring, a warm spring is a lively spring. Haskell's rubber and the rubber core in your Super Soft both go sluggish when they get cold. This was understood by the old ball makers and then quietly forgotten by the rest of us. Here is what the research shows, and the numbers are bigger than you'd ever guess. Independent testing has found that a golf ball played cold, down around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, can lose meaningful ball speed and carry compared to the same ball warmed to around 70 or 80 degrees. Depending on the study, we're talking about several yards of lost carry, in some tests around 1 to 2 yards for every 10 degrees the ball drops. Play an early fall morning at 45 degrees with a cold ball, and you might be giving away 6, 8, 10 yards on every drive before you even swing. A cold, stiff ball simply will not compress and spring the way a warm one does, and for a slower swing that already needs all the spring it can get, this is devastating. So here is the secret, and it is free, and you can do it this weekend. Never let your golf ball get cold before you hit it. On a chilly morning, keep 2 or 3 balls in your pants pocket, close to your body, and rotate them. Play one warm ball for a hole or two, then swap it back into your pocket, and pull out the next warm one while the first reheats. Some players keep a hand warmer in the pocket with them, that old trick your grandfather might have done without explaining why, keeping a spare ball warm in his palm on a cold tee. That was not superstition. That was him releasing more of the spring that Haskell built into the ball in 1898. And there's a companion clue to this that finishes the picture. Store your golf balls indoors, at room temperature, not in the trunk of your car, and not in a cold garage over winter like the sleeve I found in my father's bag. A ball that has been sitting cold takes a surprisingly long time to warm back to full liveliness. Bring your balls inside the night before you play. Let them sit at room temperature. You will tee off with the spring already loaded. Put the two halves together, and this is the whole recovered secret. Choose a low compression ball that matches your 70 to 80 mile an hour swing, one of the 5 I named, and then keep that ball warm so its spring releases fully. The right ball can give you 8 to 15 yards. The warm ball can give you another handful on a cold day. Stack them together, and you are looking at 15, even 20 yards of found distance from 2 changes that cost you almost nothing and don't touch your swing at all. This is the knowledge that was common in every clubhouse 100 years ago, when a ball was understood as a spring and everyone knew a cold spring is a dead spring. It got buried under logos and prestige and a $5 price tag designed to make you feel like the cheaper, softer, better-fitting ball was somehow beneath you. Somebody kept the science alive, in old patents, in independent labs, in the fitting data of hundreds of thousands of everyday golfers, and now you have it. I have to be honest with you. When I found that sleeve in my dad's garage with the number 90 on it, what I really found was proof that he'd been robbed of distance for decades and never knew the reason. That's what this whole trail was really about for me. Getting back something that was quietly taken, not by a swing that got old, but by a story we were all sold. You are not a slow swinger who needs to accept short drives. You are a smart player who was handed the wrong ball and never told about the spring. If you're the kind of person who suspects that a lot of useful, simple knowledge got buried on purpose so you'd keep paying for the fancy version, then you already understand what this channel is about. We dig up the things that used to be common sense before someone figured out how to sell them back to us. So here's my question for you, and I want a real answer in the comments. Go check the compression number on the box of whatever ball you're playing right now. If it's over 80, or if it's a tour ball, you may have just found the yards you've been missing. Tell me what ball you've been playing and what its number is. And tell me this, did anyone at your local pro shop ever once explain compression to you, or were you just handed the ball with the biggest logo? Type it below. I read them, and I want to know how deep this goes. If this pulled back the curtain even a little, subscribe and stand with the rest of us who are done paying for knowledge that used to be free. Because next time I'm pulling the thread on golf shafts, and I found something even stranger. There's a reason the stiff shaft everyone gets talked into buying might be costing slower swingers even more distance than the wrong ball, and it traces back to a fitting secret the club builders stopped explaining decades ago. Stick around, we're just getting started. You made it to the end, so this is for you. That ball fitting system for your exact swing speed? Members get it in full. I pick up right where I left off and walk you through it. Inside, you can ask me your own question, and a real person answers, not a machine. And you won't be alone, you'll belong. It's called the Old Ways Circle. Just point your phone at the code on screen. Cancel anytime, one click.